Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folarin. Well, my guest this morning, I'm very happy to, see Boniface again. Yeah. Dr. Boniface Chizia is a very, very well-known finance and management consultant. He's the managing director and chief executive officer of BIC Consultancy Services. Thank you very much, Boniface, for coming on.
Thank you, Yori. We go back so many years.
Indeed.
So many years.
Indeed.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now, one of the things, first of all, the overall is that trying to look at the performance of CBN under President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. That is our interest. But all of this, as you know, this week, the central bank governor, following, the MPC meeting, conclusion of the two-day MPC meeting, had, among many things, he'd said that council had decided, by a vote of all the 11 that were present, so it was the unanimous, decision to hold the MPR monetary policy rate at 14% for the second time. So let me just get the headline out of the way. Yes. For the second time, and it's very, very high. Now, Boniface, could you please explain, one, how that term, that technical term MPR, how it affects the ordinary person at the bottom of the pyramid? Of course, all the academics and all the professionals, they understand perfectly what it is, but what is there a concern with the MPR being 14% for the second year in a row, which will also now affect the cost of accessing loans? Yes.
Well, I think to some extent there is some concern in the sense that the monetary policy rate at 14%, it's relatively high, and if you comparatively look at the rates overseas, you find that you're talking of rates in lower single digits. You're talking of 4%. 2% and so on and so forth. But then the rates, you don't have a magic wand. It's not a tap that you just go and open and then you want to close and so on. So it has to flow, flow with the fundamentals of your economy. And so one of the things that the rates will have to respect will be the rate of prevalent rate of inflation in your environment. Now, if for instance, as we have it today, inflation has been coming down, that at some point in time it got to about 18%, getting close to 20%. And now it's coming down to lower double digits, so about 12%. It's about 12% and it's coming down. Now, if the rate of inflation today is at 12%, and I go to a bank and put my money in a deposit with a bank, and I have interest rates of 4% as we're having it today, automatically what that means is that I'm paying an inflation tax of 12 minus 4. I'm paying, my money in the bank is losing value by 8%. And so if I let that money in my account for 1 year, what that means in effect is that at the end of that year, as I collect my interest on this account, and if I took my money out to go and do some purchases, then the value of what I'm going to buy, the value of effective value of that money is diminished. And so if you're talking of deepening the financial system, you're trying to make sure that you mobilize liquidity from the outside the banking sector into the banks. Now, one of the critical areas you have to look at is this disparity. So that's one. So it's not something that you can do like that.
Okay.
And then interest rate also is a factor cost. So if I'm going to do business, and I'm going to take money from the bank. Most people, big businessmen, they cannot operate outside banking. That's the money from the system. Okay, and so you take money from the bank, you're going to pay interest. You're going to calculate interest, and this interest is going to be compounded. So that means you take this interest, and then if you don't meet up with your obligations, they're going to add it on as punitive and so on and so forth, and you have lots of problems. And so the rates at 14%, as they are today, they are high. But then, like I said, it's something you have to work at, it's something that you have to pursue, and then drive down the rate of inflation, and until you're able to do that, interest rates will not come down.
Boniface, the ordinary O-level understanding of inflation is that too much money chasing too few goods.
Yes.
Does that apply to us? It must, certainly, but then why are we complaining that there's no money, there's no money? You hear people saying there's no money. And one of the classic definitions, no matter how simplistic it is too much money chasing too few goods. How does that interface with us? And how come they haven't fixed that since this administration?
Well, I get the point you're saying is that we are saying liquidity is, the liquidity, money you have in the system, these are the goods and services you are able to produce, productivity of the economy. Now, when you have an imbalance, which is the case, you have imbalance in the sense that you have much more liquidity, and so, you have more than available goods and services, you have inflation. But what could cause inflation is not just that. You can also have, factor costs. And so, so I'm operating in an economy, and it's not just liquidity that will cause inflation in an economy. If I'm operating in an economy and the infrastructure is not there, and so I'm operating, I have to be my own local government. I have to give myself water, give myself road, give myself power, and so on and so forth. And so the cost of production, I have to recover it.
Yes.
And if I have to recover it, it adds on to the cost of what my goods and services, which to some extent also defines inflation. And so it's a holistic thing. And to that extent that you have as an operator, an economic agent in this environment, to the extent that you have all these, if you like, deficiencies, relatively, compared to your competitors overseas. To that extent, it impacts on your competitiveness.
I see.
So that is it. So if you take liquidity and you say, okay, where's the liquidity? But also I tell you that if you look at central bank and you look at the figures they produce, the liquidity might not be in the hands of you and I, individuals, and so so they are struggling. They can't see where this liquidity is, but the thing is in the system. And so you find that
it's in the system, but we don't see it.
Yeah,
and that's the reason I asked that question about where is this money? Every ordinary person is shying. There's no money. We are hungry. There's no work and all of that. Yeah, but you're just explaining it.
Yeah, but before Buhari came, and we now had all this expose, in terms of money is being put in toilets and money being locked somewhere and so on and so forth. And
all those contribute to this challenge?
Yes, you're talking of that's liquidity in the system. But to the extent that money is kept dormant, that money is locked up somewhere.
It's locked up.
So it will not impact on the liquidity. But you know that the Bureau de Change, the dollar that flows into Bureau de Change, most of that dollar is really dollar that's not gotten through the official channel. Now we have an election that is coming, and it's coming next week. Now, part of the expenditure for this election, someone has challenged me that I'm saying something that I don't have it's not been established. I don't have empirical evidence, But everybody knows that most of the key players, they have money overseas. And the during time of election is when they will try and put back this money into the system. And so this money is coming, and it's like laundering, as it were. And so if this money is coming, they won't take it to the bank and begin to change it in the formal sector. And so you go to the Bureau of Exchange, your Maland is running on the streets, and trying to hawk and sell dollars, and there's so much money coming, and that's going into the system.
But with that much money coming into the system, will it bring down the value in terms of the exchange rate? I think about it, is the exchange. Will it bring down the exchange?
Yeah, it should. But CBN is concerned about the stability of the system.
Okay.
So CBN, that's why CBN is concerned, is mopping up, and so on and so forth. So CBN is concerned about stability of the system. So we need to be very careful and very certain what we want to do.
CBN also appears to be very concerned with, infrastructural deficit, and so much so that it advised government that they need to watch it very, very carefully. And this plays in, doesn't it, to failing loans with banks because, could you air that area?
Yeah, infrastructure deficit in the sense that, like I just said before, deficit in the sense that, the infrastructure is not there, the things that normally you should take for granted. Let's take power. Take power as a case in point. So there's challenges with power. We made some progress, but also challenges. And to the extent that your power supply is not predictable, it's not predictable. So to that extent, you're not having to use diesel. You have to generate your own, and so on and so forth. So that's a deficit, and that's a deficit that adds on considerably to your cost of production. And so, like I said earlier on, so if I'm operating in this environment and I have a competitor out there who doesn't have to provide all these things, the person becomes immediately has a better environment, has an advantage. And also, if somebody, you're talking about foreign direct investments, and so money is coming into your system, and people are coming to invest, and somebody's coming to say, come and open a factory here. One of the things that you have to take into on board is you say to yourself, which environment is stable, which environment do you have the infrastructure in place? So it contributes to the competitiveness, the attractiveness of your environment to the external bodies.
You know what? One of our viewers called in when we were having a different conversation, but he explained that he's an industrialist, meaning that he manufactures, but that his factory had to close down because it just wasn't working anymore, especially against the backdrop of what he was producing that he needed to sell for 5,000 naira. People were importing it and were selling it at 1,000 or 1,500 naira. That was coming from the previous administration. But he phoned in and said that, well, this time around, he's been able to open up shop again.
I'm sure that might be tomato puree.
He
didn't tell you.
Okay, but by the way, talking of tomato, I think there's a ban on tomato.
No, well, I think that, I don't know it's there, but I know that the governor has sounded a note of warning that it's going to be there. Well,
anything that can be produced in Nigeria,
yes, because
consumed in Nigeria.
Yes, for those of us who have tracked the developments here. Now, this is an area where you must do kudos to the central bank. They took so much flack. It came the pressure when those 41 items were excluded. They were not banned. Let's put it say the way it is. Yes. What central bank did say is that these items will not have access to official foreign exchange. Exactly. Now put it in context. We'll say they've been banned. They're not banned. So we're not offending. We try not to offend World Trade protocols.
No, they're not, but they will not provide.
No, we will not give them. Our money is,
yes,
we believe that we have the capacity. They are talking about toothpicks and things like this. We have the capacity to do these things here. And because we had, like you did say, you now go and import these things. And most of these things are imported. They are being dumped. And so you find somebody from China is coming, and the environment provides support for you, to grow market share outside your country. And so there are also concessions and release and so on integrated into your process. And so you come here and you automatically have an advantage. And now what is happening then to us is that then we come and we cry. We export jobs. And so you look at unemployment rate. Unemployment has grown so much and so on. And we expect to turn on a magic wand.
Okay.
And expect that the jobs will be there. The jobs will not be there. I mean, we can do the end power and so on, which is very good. It shows the government has a social conscience. So let's see, but those are palliatives. Now, what would make jobs happen? Jobs will be demand-driven. So I'm working and I find that my staff is being stretched. We're producing and we're going into shifts and so on and so forth. And so it's because we have jobs to do and we have people who are working for us and they are being stretched and they're not able to cope. And then that's the job that you create that is sustainable. Now, all the jobs you create, because you do empower, because we feed a meal at school and so on, which is good. You're having a social conscience. You're trying to reach out to the poor of the poor and so on. So you're trying to do that. But such jobs, they are there, but they are not the type that you want to keep and say you want to drive. Used to build jobs that will stay and so on and so forth.
They're not that time.
Yes.
Because I think the governor in his address at the end of the two-day MPC meeting said that this whole desire to create jobs it also factored into their keeping the MPR where it was. Because to lower it would have one effect. To increase it at this time would also have a different effect, neither of which would be advantageous to the objective to create more jobs. I said, okay, this arcane aspect, when Boniface comes, he will explain it.
Yeah. MPR, municipality rate, there are factors. One of the major concerns of the central bank, is microeconomic stability. And part of what is one of the critical indices when you talk of this stability is the rate of exchange. And rate of exchange is very important because we are overly exposed to the external sector. Okay. So since 1986, since we introduced the structural adjustment program, all the efforts in this country is to diversify the economic base of this country. Because we've been monocultural. Okay, so and we've been working on this.
Going as far back to the 80s,
yes,
the late 80s.
Yes, and so it's not happening. And so the central bank has a challenge in the sense that if interest rates, you're trying to attract money, you have the risk factor in an environment is relatively high. If you begin to tinker with it, some people are looking at the returns they're going to make, particularly portfolio investors. Those who are bringing in their monies to invest and so on, invest in the stock market, and they're looking at it and saying, what returns am I going to make? What's the rate of exchange? How stable is it? If I'm going to take out my money, what am I going to get taking it out? For them, that's optimal consideration. And so the rate of interest you have, in as much as within the system, within the economy, we complain because, like I said, it's an add-on cost. But if you look from the external sector, it impacts positively on your attractiveness. So if I bring in my money and bring it to Nigeria, I'll earn so much interest.
Well, so that is if it is fair. If the money outside there is clean money.
Clean money, yes. But or if I come to yes, okay.
But if people are taking undue advantage, because the horrendous figures that we're hearing, Boniface, of monies that are being investigated, that are abroad, those ones surely are the kind of unfair head start that you seem to suggest that a few people have, and that the CBN is watching, because along the lines of what you spoke about, the governor, I believe, was saying that at that meeting that it's just not going to work. We're going to be watching everybody very, very carefully. You spoke about you will not be able to buy foreign exchange to get some of those things that, that we can produce locally. Where all of that is there, I wonder if floating the Naira, which Alhaji Atiku Abubakar has suggested, he's a presidential candidate. The CBN governor spoke about that, but I know you wrote, in fact, you wrote something that's trending all over the place on it. Why is that such a challenging idea? Let me just not comment one way or the other.
Well, I have my economic friends, those who believe that you should leave everything to the market force. Floating Naira means essentially that the rate of exchange should be, how the market, supply and demand, to determine the rates.
Okay.
Now, that's basically to those people listening, watching us, that's what it means.
Yes.
Now, in the first place, there is no currency in this economy. I repeat, there is no currency in the world that's left entirely
to its own devices.
No, there is none.
Even
the almighty dollar and so on and so forth. You see Donald Trump quarreling with the Chinese and so on, that they are manipulating things, they are taking advantage and to gain market share and so on. It's all around that. Now, and if anything, when the worst comes, something begins to trend in a way that they don't like, the Fed in America would intervene. It might do it in a very subtle way. Now, what the difference is maybe...
You're talking about the Federal Reserve in America, which is their own central bank.
Yeah, with their own central bank. Now, the only difference between what was obtained in America and what obtains here is that maybe they have more stability.
Okay.
There is none. They have more stability. So they tell you, allow the market to determine the value of currencies and so on. First of all, it's a bladder dash in the sense that it's not doesn't happen anywhere. And then our people will take it and parrot it. Now, what has happened? We all live here. Some of us, you and I, have been around for a while. 1986. One of the things we tried to do in 1986 with SAP was to enthrone market forces to take advantage of the allocative efficiency of the market. Now, what's happened? The rate of exchange overnight was at 22 Naira to the dollar.
Okay.
It happened, and overnight it went to 86.
From 22 to, I remember, that was like a nightmare.
Yes, and that was terrible. And not only that, they would not left one window at 22, and we went to 86. Now, let's take note that from that 86, from 1980, whatever it is, that rate of exchange, since 1986, the rate of exchange had never appreciated on that value. So what I'm saying is that, one, it's happening and it's getting worse. You don't get it to say, okay, it's 86, we started it, and then we found that we've been able to catalyze all these things, the flows, they've been liberalized and so on, and then the rate now came back to maybe 80. It's never happened. So that's the first thing. And then what we have in our environment today is called managed float, which means it's not fixed.
Okay.
Yeah. So
it's not entirely in the hands of demand and supply.
Yes. So it's not entirely, because in the sense that you have a window. You have a window that's 305.
Yes.
Like
which I was going to come to. I'm happy that you mentioned it, because I was going to ask why the need for the continued dual rates. Yeah, I don't know if they're even just two, or but as you know, Bureau de change. The CBN governor was saying that it's come down from 360 to even slightly under that, but there still are different rates depending on who is accessing.
Yes, I believe that that's an area that we need to look at. Because you see the implication, like it happened in 1986. Now, most of these big players you see in the environment, like those who have invested in banks, the big guys in banks, they were sitting and they had access to foreign exchange at that time. And what happened was that they got this money, they had access to it at 22. And all it happened, that's what we call round tripping.
Exactly.
Like round tripping. So you got it at 22. And on one naira, you made almost $1, you made almost more than 50 naira.
And it wasn't illegal. People were able to get away with it.
They got the money, they were able to get, and there was pressure when this thing happened. And people were prepared to fall over themselves, because people were dependent. And so that's happened. Now, let me bring us back to this administration.
Okay.
When this administration started, the rate of change was 158, 150, not up to just 150. Now, what's happened again? Then there was pressure, there was an outcry that things are not happening, there's no growth in the economy, this is not happening. It's not happening because we were told those who are managing the affairs of the economy, they are clueless. They don't know what they're doing. And under pressure, multilateral institutions, IMF and so on, central bank said, okay, it's not for the first time. We're not going to just be another player in the market. So we're going to we just allow the thing, supply and demand will go, and then we'll just come and intervene. We find that the thing is going out of hand, we'll intervene. And what happened? You see, we're talking about 2 years ago, 2 3 years ago. The rate went to 500 and something. And it was going. And if nothing happened, remember I said from 86,
yes,
it's now 500 and something.
Yes.
And that's the trend. And if nothing happened, I'm telling you, Yori, that rate today will be probably 800. And then all this poverty we're talking about,
yes,
will be a child's play.
So that's one of the reasons that, these people, the moderators, the regulators,
yes,
have to intervene.
They intervened. Then it's discovered that it was getting out of hand. And they intervened. And God helping us, helping this country. God gave them special wisdom, ingenuity. And they started doing things, and they got to this importer-exporter window, which now became a master stroke. But now what that meant was that if I'm now bringing in my money, I look for a counterpart in Nigeria that wants to utilize my money. If we're doing business, both of us will agree. So there's no interference. There's no supply and demand.
Exactly.
So even if you like, it's narrowed in the sense that I'm bringing my money and I have that guy that's dealing with me. So, and then we'll say, okay, I'm going to give you at this rate. We agree. And what the banks will do then is that the bank will just give a platform and offer guarantees. And that's been the saving grace. And once that took off, then the pressure on the foreign reserve reduced. There was a time the foreign reserve was 20 something. And it was getting frightening because there's an amount of money you must have in the foreign reserves.
Yes, a minimum.
For minimum, vis-a-vis the level of transactions and importations, the outflow and so on. Beyond that, the risk factor in the environment would increase. And so the cost of borrowing would also increase.
Well, you just gave the CBN some kudos there that
yes,
they were, creative.
Very creative, but God, they built them, especially this and then in the panic. And that's the stability we are now enjoying.
Okay.
And we must be concerned that this stability is not upset.
When I was listening to the governor of Central Bank on that, there was an instance where he referred to the support of government.
Yeah.
they say that, look, we sort of handle this, but we also need to mention that with the support of government. Now, the question I have for you is that I never heard Alan Greenspan and those people over there talking about the support of government. In fact, they will annoy government if they don't care. Central banks are supposed to be independent, right? But we have our own situation here.
The central bank is supposed to have what they call instrument autonomy. You cannot. You can be independent up to a point because somebody appointed you. The president appointed you. And then in an environment, the president can also decide overnight to remove you.
Oh,
and the heavens will not fall. And so that independence is circumscribed, really circumscribed. But what the independence central bank should have is what they call instrument autonomy. The president shouldn't go to central bank and say, go and print money. Like happened in Idi Amin, Uganda in those days. Yes, go and print money. You know, we have nation, rule like the money. Yes. Now, they mustn't do that. But that independence is circumscribed. And what is also important, like we said earlier on, central bank's core mandate is to maintain stability, macroeconomic stability. So you find that their focus is on rate of inflation.
Okay.
They are driving it. In our environment, if you put inflation, you put rate of exchange. It's very important.
Because you explained that all these things, there's a domino effect. They're all linked.
Yes. You know, so the central bank has that as a focus. And they pursue that mandate.
So this business of businesses groaning under the pressure of our policies and how to do business here, factories closing down, those stories that we heard in the past. And as I said, somebody phoned in and said, things are different now. They're not exactly where he would like them to be, but at least he's opened up his factory again. Yeah. Let me ask you, what would be your assessment of CBN under Buhari's administration? Because you've said some nice things about them, but you've also said that they still are working with the challenges.
But I think we did not quite anchor discussion on the floating. Okay. Where I was heading was to say that it's so clear to us that any attempt to float the currency again would worsen the rate of exchange.
Okay.
There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. You don't need any soothsayer to tell you that.
That is a bad idea.
It's a bad idea. It will worsen the thing, and this economy cannot take it. We cannot take it. So what we have to do...
One is then surprised, because I know people work with advisors, people consult people like you for the expertise in certain arcane fields. Why would anybody come up with an idea of floating the Naira?
Well, they talk about floating. They talk about...
As a solution.
We have floating the Naira. That's why I did when I started my paper, I said that it's in my place we have a saying that says you have to drive the black sheep, goat into the house before it's dark. Because when it's dark, it blends with the environment. You'll be able to see the sheep, the goats again to drive in. I say, what is happening now? We have a responsibility in this economy to sound an alarm, to say that this is not the way to go. We don't want, you see, we should be focused. We should be going beyond all this now. But because of this, all this instability, forward, backwards, and so on and so forth, we are still going around in circles. And that's a need for us as we begin to embrace elections.
When you say going around in circles, are you talking about our understanding of the situation or in policy formulation?
In policy formulation, articulation, implementation, and so on and so forth.
We're
still going around, and we seem as if we are still grouping.
It looks like you think we're making it up as we go along.
Yeah, yes. It's as if we are still grouping in the dark. It should be clear to us, yes, we should be clear to us now that certain things we should not do. So, and I said this, and people begin to tell me, but then you have to release the thing, you have to liberalize, even amongst my colleagues, we go into arguments. I say to people, yes, I have my feet stuck on the ground. I embrace realism, and tell me, tell me where it's worked. I tell you in Canada, I say, where is it?
I got to go on a break. And then, having, as you said, anchored this, I wanted to get your assessment of the CBN.
Yes, we'll do that. Yeah. We'll do that.
Stay right with us, please. We'll be right back, and we'll include your calls. Okay, welcome back. Our guest, Dr. Boniface Chizia, Finance and Management Consultant, MD, CEO of BIC Consultancy Services. You were setting the scene. Now, I still wanted to hear your impression on how well CBN is doing under this administration, because it will impact all the objectives of this administration.
Well, I have tracked the central bank, tracked activities and so on, and I followed them from the inception of Godwin Emefiele as a governor of central bank, then up to the coming of this administration. I think that central bank stands out clearly as one institution that has discharged itself creditably. And I say this without any fear of contradiction. The results speak for themselves. You can't fight. You see the results. The result is there. Like I said, you know, the governor came on board, and then the administration started, and there were all sorts of issues, all sorts of problems. People wanted him to devalue the currency, and he said, "I'm not going to devalue the currency." The president came in and also said, "We're not going to devalue the currency." And I think to people out there, you don't just devalue your currency for the sake of devaluation. If you devalue your currency, first of all, it's inflationary. Because it means that you're going to spend more. If you're importing, you spend more of the units.
Exactly. I mean,
yes, and then you are doing this. And now, if you don't have the compensating factor in the sense that you will devalue, and you're going to gain more market share. So there are people who adopt devaluation as a competitive strategy. This is what that says in effect, is that we're going to use devaluation, we're going to trickle our rate of exchange and make us a bit more competitive. But if we're going to export. But the only export we have in Nigeria, 90% is oil. And this oil itself is denominated in dollars. And so we're never going to sell more oil because we devalued. And because you devalued, where you don't have an economic base, you don't have an export base.
I can see what you...
There's no advantage.
The whole thing is very shaky.
So what you're doing then is you are exporting jobs, you're importing hardship, or you're worsening the misery index in our environment.
Okay, one moment, please. Good morning, Mr. George. Thank you for calling in.
Good morning, Uncle Yori. Good morning to the guest.
Thank you very much.
Uncle Yori, while I agree with the experts there that we should not float the naira, I basically agree with that, because this economy cannot sustain what it takes to float the naira. And like he rightly said, it's not done anywhere in the world. But I have issues with his argument on interest rate. He says that if you lower the interest rate, the foreign investors will not come because the profit they will make from their investment will be low. If you just oppose this argument with the fact that our small-scale industries are not blossoming because of the interest rate, because of what it takes for them to get loans from the banks to finance their businesses, you will begin to wonder whether that argument holds water or not.
Okay.
Many people are not able to fund their businesses because they cannot take interest at the rate of 18% to 20%. And you are required to tax paying without any tax holiday. The government, the central bank, has taken a step forward by going to fund multinationals or major industries. I saw the CBN governor the other day in Lagos inspecting Dangote refinery.
Yes.
And he said he was partnering with Dangote on that in that investment. If the government, if the CBN can do that, why is the CBN discriminating? They are not helping the small-scale industrialists to grow their businesses, but they are helping the big ones, though it is not out of place. But I think the big ones are in larger number, and they need it more.
Okay.
So you should look at that again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, the CBN governor did say that there would be, you know, something like a 300 million naira. Is it dollar?
Billion naira? It must be billion. You're talking
about
Dangote.
You know, that they would at least be. He was so happy with Dangote, but as Mr. George is saying, wait a minute, How about the lowly, ordinary guy? They're not getting any help.
Yes, I think that is spot on. I think that you know, my comments, my analysis was a bit balanced, you know, to the extent. I did say that interest rates in this environment are relatively high.
Yes.
I did say that rates have been there for more than almost 2 years, but I tried to find a way to rationalize why that has been so. You know, we're trying to maintain the stability and so on and so forth. But he's quite correct in the sense that if you're talking of small and medium scale industries, micro, small, medium scale industries, they should be the engine room of any economy. When we talk about jobs, that's the sector that should account for the jobs you want job opportunities to come in the economy. Okay. That's the sector that you should really focus on. Now, Central Bank, in spite of what's happened to the interest rates environment, has gone out of its way to try and find a way to accommodate them. And so you find that, you know...
And it's not in its normal purview.
No, yes, because then, see, Central Bank, because of the nature of this environment, has gone into what they call developmental you know, functions. And that's why I find that they're doing anchor borrowers program, they're lending to almost of schemes, they're in the special fund that single-digit interest rates for people in power, and so on for agriculture, and so on. That is meant to get around this high interest rate environment. And I know that, you know, at some point in time, the bankers committee, you know, the banks were encouraged, you know, to really, you know, go to small businesses and then take equity. So that's the money you put there will be like you take a position. Okay,
but even Mr. George himself said that, look, CBN, as it were, sort of showing their appreciation for the efforts of Dangote, and you know, they said his refinery complex is the size of 10 VIs and all of that. But as Mr. George was pointing out, the small mom and pop, the small little...
No, but we need to explain. You know, why is CBN so excited about Dangote?
Oh, I beg your pardon. You come back because I don't want to lose another caller. Okay. So if you just hold it there, and then I'll bring in Reverend Dominic. Thank you very much, Dominic, for holding on all that while. Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Okay, good morning, Dominic. Can you hear me? Reverend Dominic, good morning.
Hello, good morning, Yori. How are you today?
Very well, thank you. Please go ahead.
Good morning to your guest.
Sure.
Good morning.
Okay. Let me speak like an illiterate, economic illiterate. But let me give this apology. Yeah. If you're a sick person and you go to a medical doctor who is an expert to manage you as a sick person who is not a medical doctor, you will know whether you are getting healed or cured by the medicine given to you. I said this to establish what George has said. Every time we use bankers to do CBN governance, they go there for business. And that business is to manage their own, you know, what I call their own local constituency, the bank. I'm saying this since the MEFLA has become CBN in this dispensation, many banks have crumbled. And the question most of us ask, who are illiterate, where is this money flying to? The other bank crumbled that they say money has flied away from Nigeria. Maybe monkey or dog are swallowing. We close that bank. I'm here that Diamond Bank now, that Access is going to swallow it. What is the problem with this bank? We have people who have interest in the bank, fronting for their own bank and closing other banks. That's what I will say. I'm sure your guests may know what I'm saying. The member are not done well because he's fronting for his own bank in Nigeria. And this is why they're going to big multinationals, fund them for their business. When they decide, they become a shareholder. But the little businesses, nobody talk about it. And I said it with boldness. Your guests know what I'm saying. A member is a banker. If we must take another CBN, you know, governor, we must take non-banker. Who will take everybody along? Who will treat everybody equal? Who have no major stake in banks? Which we have to do front for them and kill for that one. A member have not done well. When the PMB lost the election, I thought the first man will take off his MFLA. Every money that flowed back around to the corruption came from CBN.
All right.
Signing.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning, Reverend Dominic. Oh dear.
That's a reverend on fire.
What do you think of his concerns? I mean, first of all, as a regulator, you're not supposed to lean one way or the other. You're supposed to have the objectives and pursue them. But he is saying that it's more than that. And he kept on saying that your guest knows what I'm saying. Well,
I'm not. I don't work for central bank.
But he's charged there.
Yes, charged. Yes, I think he's charged, and there are lots of emotion. You know. Well, I think that I've had this talk about who should be the ideal central bank governor. All the governors we've had so far, they've all been bankers. You know, they worked for big banks, and you know, and so on and so forth. And so the jury is still out. You know, we had Soludo was an economist, pure and simple, and he came, and that was why he was able to do the things he did. In the sense that you know, the Soludo came, Joseph Sanusi was partnering with capitalization of 2 billion. And Soludo came. I remember you were at Channels then, and I was called to News at 10, and I didn't know what was happening. And I was told as I got on the box for the interview that capital base had been raised to 25 billion. No banker, nobody who worked in the banking industry would have been able to do that. And so it depends, you know. So you can bring an economist that I would not. So what I'm saying is that we have to run away from stereotyping. You know, so stereotyping. Yes, if you have somebody who's an economist, yes, he has an overview. But you also have somebody who's a managing director of a bank who has an economic background.
Okay.
And so you go to somebody like Emefiele. Emefiele read economics, read finance, and so now you combine. You know, so except you're talking about say having the degree of economics you have, it should be at a much higher level. You take Sanusi. That's the MA today. Also, I think he also read economics. And so they read, so they're like a combination. So they have the theoretical basic knowledge, and they don't have practical knowledge. But, you know, but that's maybe a matter for another day. But I think that is a concern about not being balanced, or being one-sided, and so on and so forth. Soludo himself was also accused of, at some point in time, you know, being hostage, being the banks were like holding him hostage. You know, and he has his assessment of Emefiele. I have mine. You have yours.
Indeed.
Yes. And so everybody should be entitled to their views. But the thing is that, you know, if you have the assessment of somebody, to what extent is it based on objective factors? I would, with due respect, you know, I think that being an analyst and having my take on it, I'm not driven by sentiments. Maybe this guy has lost some money somewhere. he has some money in the bank, and you know, lost some money somewhere. And I have friends like that. They lost some money. The bank was shut down, and so on and so forth. The person that really crashed the bank's environment changed it.
When Governor Emefiele of Central Bank says that those who are saying the economy has not improved, has not been bettered, he says those people are being unfair. Would you agree with him?
Obviously. I mean, one cannot say that we're there, you know, that we're still this work in progress, you know. But like I said, we should be thankful, you know, if the rate of exchange, if they allowed it. And not only that, it was a big battle. At some point in time, I was concerned about the health of the governor himself. Because the pressure he was under, it was palpable. It was, you could see him, and you could see the pressure he was under. Yes, you know, so God just worked with him, and he found a solution.
So, but back to the operation. Everybody is watching. The election is coming. This is factoring into investment, investors from abroad. Everybody is watching. Nobody wants to approach. In the past, they've said that we flip-flopped with policies. So, rightly or wrongly, they don't believe that you really know where you are if you're going to Nigeria. Has that changed substantially in recent times?
Well, I think that the policy inconsistency is to that extent it's reduced. At some point in time, you know, like when you have an emergency situation, and that was really the case. When this Naira was going, was on a tailspin and was going, there was panic. And so when you have a panic situation, yes, you want to be trying, and you don't have the patience because you see the thing, it's like your house is on fire. And so you are trying this water, it's not getting there. You have to try other things and so on and so forth. And so there was this, understandably, that you didn't have the time to allow, you know, so we put in this policy measure, so let's have all the time to wait for it and see how it's going to work. You didn't have that time. And so once you introduce the policy and you get the first sign that's not going the way you want it to go, you change. And so on that condition, yes, there was panic, instability in policy measures. And that's the one, it should be understandable. But since then, since we got this stability, what you have now, we can just work with it. And I think the thing is, if you tell me, it's Nigeria has take time to happen that the governor is reappointed. It's happened. That means it's happened well. If, people say 5 years is long enough. Yeah, but it's not impossible. But let's not go into individuals.
Okay.
But what we should be saying is that anybody that's going to come in, anybody, is it a federal or somebody that's coming to governor central bank, the person should aim for stability of policies.
Okay.
The person should not aim for certain things we've talked about now, that we've arrived at a stage where we can manage. We can begin to build on incrementally, begin to improve, and begin to work on this economy, and begin to grow jobs, and begin to reduce unemployment. Now, if you look at what's happening, there are success areas. You take the Anchor Borrowers Program. For once, we don't import so much, spend so much money on rice, importing rice. And so if that's the way to go.
Thailand Rice Growers Association or Exporters Association, I was reading, are bemoaning the fact that Nigeria is not importing any rice anymore, going by the volume that they used to do.
Is it only Thailand? Even the neighboring countries, Cotonou and so on and so forth, most of the ports there are dependent on transshipment. So they're important, they move through the borders to Nigeria. But before we left, we were talking about Dangote and the refinery and the governance upbeat about it. The amount of foreign exchange that we spend importing refined products in this environment is substantial. Indeed. And so the government will come in from a position that we'll have this within Nigeria, and we'll stop importation. We remove that chunk of pressure.
Not only stop importation, he said we will be exporting refined petroleum products.
No, the level of production is massive. I don't have the figures now. 600 or something million barrels a day and so on. There's no way we consume that here. So we're going to be exporting the whole of the sub-region. And of course, we expect that nobody will begin to want to do anything about like regulating the prices. We talk about subsidy. One of the problems we have in this environment is that, like the market in the area of importation, the amount of money that's quoted in subsidy for 2019, 300 and something, like people are saying in the social media, is even higher than the budget for education. And sometimes this money subsidy does not go to the intended beneficiary.
As George said, the first caller, the very first caller said, look, he understands probably. He first of all observed that, look, okay, you're being very supportive of the Dangotes of this world, and then he added, but understandably.
Yes.
But how about the ordinary guy?
And he's been doing that. He's been pushing, he's been giving all sorts of credits for them. He's been targeted credits for macro, small, and medium-scale enterprises.
Okay, and that is ongoing.
Yes, it's ongoing.
What is one to make, Boniface, of the capital market? Because it's often an indicator. You look at the capital market and you get a very, cursory, shall we say, snapshot of what the economy is like in that place. Right now, well, if you want to go into, stocks buying, this is the best time to go because the thing has become almost like pure water. Is that good or bad? But before you go, I want to bring in Mazi Okora for calling in from Arochukwu. So let him add his comment before you now.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, Mazi.
Good morning, Sayuri. Good morning, our guests in the studio.
Thank you very much.
The CBN performance under the BNBC. Under our monetary policy this time around, thank God there's only one bank, or two, well, let's call it only one bank, that's polarized, that's only shaking one that we had. And this issue of diamond and assets. Now, there's an improvement, but what my question now is this. Some of these loans, which they give. Now, what is the CBN trying to their case, what they can do to recover some of these loans they have given out to people? And some people have not paid because as of last week Saturday, we were discussing on this issue about the monetary, the loans, the soft loans, the CBN. But you have said at least 70 or 50% have not, 70 or 60 have not. Under this type of condition, there is no way you can also extend this loan to other people to benefit. So this is a question that now what I want to find out from the chief now. What action will you take? Because looking at the situation, because people tell you maybe because of the Fulani herdsmen or flood that made them, they could not balance that. I think the only thing I would just suggest on this program is the CBN should try as much as possible the soft loan they give. those existing industries, let's say, for example, like this textile industry in Kano that have just gone moribund, like Aba, they are there at the market. There is need for them to go there now. Look at those that are already on the ground. See how they can do what? Expand their own scope so that they can now bring in more people. At least you are sure that you recover your money when you give out these loans. Okay. Thank you very much. Have a blessed day. Happy weekend to you, sir.
Indeed.
Like, well,
Thank you very much, Mazi.
Thank you. I think the thing to say is that central bank doesn't lend money, to individuals. That is not part of their mandate. The most they will do is, for instance, they lend through Bank of Industry. And so it's an allocation. They say, look, for money for small and medium-scale enterprises at this rate, and they give the Bank of Industry to manage. And that's quite a lot of that, So central bank doesn't. And then central bank also, in having an overview, in trying to maintain stability of the financial sector, is concerned about the health of the banks. And so you have, they go and oversight, they inspect, they have a department there that takes care of monitoring the sector, monitoring the loans and so on, and making sure that, the loans don't go back. But we have AMCOM. AMCOM is supposed to be an institution that's supposed to be ready, like bad bank,
Timothy in Ikeja, last call, I believe. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. How are you today, Okuyori?
Good morning, sir.
First time calling on the program.
We're delighted to have you. Please go ahead with your comment or question.
All right. This is what I got to say. A fantastic analysis from your guest.
Thank you.
But I think my problem, first let me say, CBN has done quickly, considering what we find, the situation we find ourselves in Nigeria. But most importantly, I think every economy of the world that is trying to move ahead should try to focus on a small scale. It's good to look at the big industries, but the small scale in Nigeria, I find extremely difficult. Kudos to all the laudable borrowing schemes, but a lot of things still have to be done. I know one of the challenges is getting people to repay their loans.
Yes.
But by now, I think Nigeria should find itself in creating short-time, medium, and long-time in how to ensure that the bankable and unbankable population and also the businesses.
All right. I'm very sorry, Timothy. Really forgive me. I've got to interrupt you. We've almost run out of time. But thank you very much for calling in. Did you want to? I interrupted you. I wanted to know how to take the situation in the capital market where we've taken a hit. And people will often look at that as an indication of how well the economy of the country is doing.
Yes, the capital market, what's happening is that the capital market today is bearish. What is bearish is that people are selling, they're not buying.
Yes.
And so people are selling, they're not buying. So the value, the market capitalization has crashed. Now, one of the reports I read did say that last year alone, we lost 1.9 trillion naira capitalization. And that's people's money. Yeah. That means if you are holding a share, and that's what the value calculator has so many number of shares at this rate, I've lost, that was money that was lost.
Yes.
Last time they said in 8 months, we lost about 3.43 trillion. And so that is a sign of the risk people are feeling. Election is coming. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't want to want to be caught in this, and so we're taking our money.
They're taking profit.
Yes, they take the money out quickly. So they're selling. So you have that more people are selling their shares than are willing to buy.
Yes.
And so if you have money now,
yes,
like this time to buy, because then the rates can't be lower than what it is today. So you have money, and it's patient money. That's not money you want to put, and you want to take interest tomorrow to go and pay school fees and so on. Have patient money, have some reserves. You go now and take position. There's no way it's going to be profitable in due course. But the capital market is the barometer of the state of fear.
Okay, the state of fear. That is what it is at the moment.
Yes, yes. So they're waiting, and once the election finishes, and we're asking, praying to God that even if we have some contestations, it will be like going to court and so on and so forth. that we manage. They will start coming back.
Oh, well, I want to thank you very much, Boniface, for coming and explaining these aspects to us. And We could go on for another hour, but we've run out of time.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Thank you for the opportunity.
Indeed,
yes.
our pleasure. Our pleasure. Dr. Boniface Chizia, Finance and Management Consultant and MD CEO of BIC Consultancy Services, was our guest today. Okay, so that's our program. Please join us on Monday for a fresh edition. As you know, we don't do weekends. Do have a great one yourself. I'm Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.